everybody. I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. You know, it's the month of December. We all have celebrations. We all have family coming in, and I'm so excited. The kitchen looks so festive, and I've got on my cute little apron today that I made with the reindeer, so I'm all ready to get started with Christmas cooking. So tonight we're going to do 3 recipes. We're doing a chicken in a brown paper bag. I'm doing a skillet corn with zucchini and yellow squash, and then finally a potato dish that has cauliflower. So let's get started. We're going to do the chicken first, and I've actually gotten it rinsed off at the sink, and I went to the fresh market and picked this up, and you know, I feel so special when I'm in there, even doing something like buying just a chicken, because you get to pick it out and they're all standing up in the fresh crushed ice. And so I picked you out special. Love to do that. And we're just gonna pat it really good and dry with paper towel, because the seasoning is gonna stick to it a lot better if you do that. So this is ready to go. I trimmed all the excess fat. I'm gonna start with the back of the chicken first. And I went ahead and portioned the salt and pepper that I wanna use into small containers, so I'm not putting my hands that are on the chicken back into the salt. I'll throw this away if I don't use it all. So this is kosher salt, and I want to actually put some on the inside as well. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. And you know, this is a great way for any of you novice out there, maybe some of you newlyweds that haven't really cooked a whole turkey yet, to practice on a chicken. I know when I was growing up, my mother always used a plastic bag, the cooking bag that you can buy at the grocery store, to cook the turkey. And so this recipe is a little bit reminiscent of that. But the reason that we're using a paper bag is because not only does it really hold in the moisture, but it's also going to give the chicken a really great golden brown. All right, so now at this point, I'm going to put an onion in the cavity, and we're going to take a piece of chicken twine, and I'm just going to tie the legs up so that they stay together, and then we're going to put the final seasoning on the top. All right, so you've got some choices here. You can either just use just plain paprika, or I really love this chicken rub that they sell at the fresh market. I've used it on the show several times, but it's just a wonderful combination of paprika and garlic, a little bit of salt, but this is gonna help with that golden brown texture that you wanna get. So we're gonna completely cover the chicken in this rub. I love to do this when I'm just doing maybe some chicken breast too. It's just got a really great flavor. So once you buy this, you'll find that you'll start using it more and more. All right. So now this is just about ready to go. And you know, it's kind of fun to do something a little different. The children will get a big kick out of this. I loved asking for a paper bag when I was at the fresh market, and they're actually celebrating 30 years of business. So they've got that all over the brown bag. So now I'm just gonna take the chicken and put it all the way down in the bag. And I've got a dish that's got sides on it. And at this point, we're just gonna crimp the end of the bag, and that's where we will tie it up to go in the oven. So you don't have to spray the pan. I didn't have to do anything to the bag, but I wanna show you what it looks like when it's finished. So I made one ahead. I'm gonna pull that out of the oven. Oh, it just smells so great. So at this point, you can see that the bag didn't burn up in the oven. It was on 400 degrees. You just want to make sure your rack is down low enough so that the top of the bag doesn't hit the heating element. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to be splitting this open. You're going to be able to see all the steam coming out, really nice and moist. And you did it yourself, and you didn't have to buy it already done at the grocery store. So come back and join us after the break. I'm going to get started on the skillet corn. Welcome back. And while we were on the break, that chicken came out of that brown paper bag and just looked beautiful. Just tear away the outside of the paper bag. I put a meat thermometer in it because you want to make sure it's at 165 and the juices that are flowing from it are nice and clear, but it's ready to go. There's hardly any mess, and we're going to be slicing that up in just a few minutes. But let's get started now on this skillet corn. And you know, corn you can pretty much buy most of the time of year depending on where it's being grown, and Fresh Market had some really beautiful ears of corn. But don't forget this recipe this summer when we've got some of our great local corn available. But what you want to do is be sure you've got a really sharp knife, so always have your knife sharpener handy when you're doing this sort of thing. And a tip that I'd like to give you is to not keep those extra sharp knives in the drawer where a young person might go in and accidentally looking for something find it. So I love to color code the really sharp knives. Our really sharp knives are red, and I like to use those, you know, myself, and maybe not let that get in the hands of a young person. But you're basically going to take the bowl, and I'm using just a medium-sized bowl with this sharp knife, and you're just going to go straight down on each of these cobs, and you're going to come back and scrape it nice and clean to get the juices. And that's what makes the recipe get nice and thick and golden brown, because of the natural sugars when you take the knife and just go back against where those kernels were and scrape it really well. All the recipes that I'm doing tonight are from one of my favorite cookbooks, Sarah Foster's Kitchen, and she's actually in Durham and has a wonderful cafe there, and I have found her recipes to be so consistent. But just like me, when you read her forward, and next week when Virginia Willis joins us, they speak about their grandmother and the things that they learned from their grandmother. And you know, the very simple things like shucking an ear of corn. You know, who taught you how to do that? Who sat with you and showed you how to pull that away, how to make it work, how to get all those little strands away from it, how to rinse it? Was it your grandmother? So these are the little simple things that I want you to get that young person in the kitchen with you. Don't buy the corn already done, buy it in the husk and teach them how to do that. So I've got butter melting in my iron skillet, about a half a stick, and it's unsalted. Now I'm gonna add this corn to it. And then I'm going to take about, and you can see that liquid from the corn actually in the bowl. So now I'm going to take about 1/4 of a cup of water, and I'm just going to go around the outside of this bowl because I want to get all the rest of that liquid in here. All right, so that's just going to cook down. And while that's cooking, I want to add in some zucchini and yellow squash. So again, I've got that really sharp knife. I want to just do some nice quick slices. And I'm going to leave these whole because it gives another dimension to this dish. And every vegetable that you use during the holidays does not have to be a casserole. So this is going to be a very simple, wonderful dish, and it's going to have a little variety in color. So let's add in the zucchini, and now for some yellow squash. And these are actually really nice and tender. It's amazing to me how the produce department can have such great vegetables this time of year. If you want to get this done ahead, all of the vegetables could be already cut. You could have your corn done, and then at the last minute, while you know maybe one person's setting the table, you could get started on adding it all into that butter and getting it heated. These are the kind of simple suppers that maybe give you just a little hint of the time of year when you really love those vegetables. And then the last thing that we're going to add to this, and I'll get these going, the yellow squash, is fresh basil. The Fresh Market always has all of the nice seasonings, so you're just going to cut this into some nice thin strips, and at the last minute, right before this is ready to be served, we're going to put this fresh basil in. So while we're on the break, this will continue to cook down. I'm just looking for all of the vegetables to get good and tender, and we will be ready to get started on the potato and cauliflower dish. Proper use of silverware is so important, and it's never too early to start a young person on how to use it properly. If soup is being served, the soup spoon is on the right. You want to teach them to work away. We say soup away is an easy way to remember it. When you're not using the spoon, it always rests on the plate under the bowl. During the meal, when you get ready to cut your meat, you want to be sure that you grip, flip, and point. That's grip, flip, and point. So you have your finger that you're using to kind of guide you as you cut. When you're finished cutting, the knife goes on the right at the top, and then you cradle your fork on the center finger and use your hand this way when you're preparing to eat. When you're finished with the meal, the silverware goes with the handles to 4 o'clock, indicating that you're finished. Don't forget to thank the host or hostess for a wonderful meal. Merry Christmas, everybody, and you know it's the beginning of the month, and it's never too soon to think about what you might be making for some of those special holiday meals. While we were on the break, I peeled my potatoes, and I'm using 2 different types today, a russet potato and a Yukon Gold. And I got those cut and in the boiling water, and they are now ready for us to start getting this dish ready. But in choosing your potatoes for mashed potatoes, you know, the waxy potatoes, kind of like a fingerling potato, are really nice and moist and sweet, but they seem to get a little gooey when you try to use them for a mashed potato dish. So I recommend that you go with either a russet or a Yukon Gold, and it's really great to combine the two. So these are fork tender, nice and piping hot. I'm going to add these. Actually, there's some water down in there, so let me just take that now. And I've got a stick of butter in the bottom. And I'm going to just start using my traditional potato masher to begin with to get these going. And this way, most of the chunks and everything will be out when you get ready to use the mixer. So the difference in the 2 potatoes, one, the russet potato is kind of a white centered, and then the Yukon Gold, of course, is a little golden in color. So that's going to give you a little bit of a difference in how they look. So I'm just getting these mashed down, and then I'll start adding in the other seasonings. But we're going to add a twist to this tonight. I know for those of you that have tried the low-carb diets, you're probably dying right now that I'm doing potatoes. But you know, in that diet, you can use cauliflower. So I thought, well, why don't we kind of combine the two, and what would that be like? So I'm going to be adding some cauliflower to this. So this is just about ready to get that process going. So let's move over to this saucepan where I steamed my cauliflower. I'm going to put it over here, and we're going to do the exact same thing to that. I'm just going to take the cauliflower that was fork tender, and I'm going to mash it, and then we're going to add that to the potatoes. Kind of a different idea, and it'll give it just a little bit of a different taste and texture. All right. So at this point, I'm going to add my salt. Of course, that's to everyone's preference. But to this many potatoes, I'm probably going to use about 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, and then about 1 teaspoon of pepper. And then my liquid ingredient tonight is buttermilk. And a couple of weeks ago on the show, I said the nice thing about having buttermilk in the refrigerators has such a long shelf life. And yes, it does, because I can still use this for about another week. So I'm going to add about 1 cup of buttermilk to this. And this can kind of take the place of sour cream, but you could also use that as well, sour cream with milk. And then I know before I've done things with potatoes where you could almost do like a mashed potato bar and have all of the different ingredients, but we're using this tonight with chicken. So I'm not going to do onions in it tonight. I'm going to put Parmesan cheese. But if I was doing a beef tenderloin, which many of you do during the holidays, I know we love that on Christmas Eve, what about some prepared horseradish and chives in the mashed potatoes? Almost like the horseradish sauce that you would use with the meat, but it becomes part of the mashed potatoes. I know in your family, just like mine, we have arguments sometimes over whether you like the potatoes really creamy or nice and chunky. And we like a little combination of the two, so I try to get a nice compromise going. I'm going to add just a little bit more buttermilk to this, and then I'm going to use the mixer and put in the Parmesan cheese. So if you're doing this ahead, just remember that it's going to keep absorbing that liquid as it sits because it's a starch, and you'll want to make sure at the last minute you're ready to put this bowl in the microwave. Add just a little bit more liquid and have it nice and creamy when you get ready to put it in the bowl. I'm going to let the cheese start melting. This smells so good. And when we come back from the break, I've got some beautiful china that Sally and Kathy brought over from the Three Monkeys. We're going to go over that formal place setting one more time because you're going to need it this month. And then we're going to dish up all of these wonderful dishes. So come back after the break and we'll get started on your first Christmas dinner. Welcome back, and as you can see, it looks so festive, and I've had the best time today. As a matter of fact, the girls at Three Monkeys, Kathy and Sally, have put together a fantastic place setting, and I thought I would take a minute, since everyone is setting tables this time of the year. I do it a lot of times in my etiquette tips, but so many people will stop me in the grocery store and say, I just love the segment on the place setting. So I thought that I would go over that for just a moment. As you can see, this china is absolutely beautiful, and Three Monkeys registers this for brides, but it's so gorgeous this time of year with the green, the red placemat, but you can have your monogram put on it in gold. It is exquisite. So what we have here is a charger plate, a dinner plate, and a salad plate. So if you were setting the table with a charger, you would start with that. And then, of course, when you get ready to serve the meal, whether it was the salad course first or the dinner, you would bring that and put it directly on the charger. If you do the salad first, when you go to clear, you're going to leave the charger. If you're doing dinner, when you get ready to clear, you're going to take the entire place setting with you, take the charger and everything. Dessert will be served without the charger. Okay, let's get to the flatware. The knife always goes to the right and the blade is facing the plate. The soup spoon or tablespoon goes beside the knife, and as you can see, we've evened everything with the charger and the placemat, so you've got a nice straight line across. The dinner fork goes first, closest to the plate because you eat from the outside in, and then your salad fork is next to your dinner fork. If you're going to have dessert that is eaten with a spoon, you want the dessert spoon to be at the top of the place setting with the handle facing the glasses. If it was a dessert fork, it would be faced the opposite direction. Place cards are always fun this time of year. I love to do place cards when I set my holiday tables. I actually keep them year after year and just pull them out when I need them. Of course, beautiful napkins are great this time of year. I love to give monogram napkins as a wedding gift. Even if they only use them twice a year, it's a fun way for them to remember you as the recipient, and Three Monkeys can take care of that for you as well. Beautiful napkin rings. If you're using a bread and butter plate, that goes to the left next to the forks. And then, of course, your goblets. Your water glass goes above the knife and your wine glass goes a little bit further in. So just a beautiful place setting. Everything is gorgeous. And you know, when you go to someone's house for dinner, it's always great just to take a little bread and butter gift. I've got cocktail napkins, just something that you can just quickly take. It works out great. Beautiful decor that they've got in their store this time of the year. But let's get going on this wonderful meal. Earlier in the show, I was able to get the brown bag chicken out of the oven. cut that bag, and there was a beautiful chicken all ready to go. I've cut it, I've put it on a platter with fresh rosemary. I separated the dark meat and the white meat. And then the beautiful succotash with the fresh corn, zucchini, and squash. And I'm just going to use a beautiful everyday red dinner plate to start plating some of this. And what makes this so attractive to me is the fact that it's not casseroles, and you can just, you know, really even use it as leftovers for several days. And I love the dark meat, so I'm going to start with that. Just beautiful. And to make the presentation even better, if you're plating it, would be to have a tablespoon of butter that you could just pop on top of those mashed potatoes at the last minute. Really makes a nice garnish. I want to remind everyone that I've got my cooking classes this month every Saturday. In fact, we did our very first one tonight with 6- and 7-year-olds. It was precious. Did it earlier in the day. They loved it. But I've got one every Saturday. I want to remind you about that. You can look at the dates that we've got on the screen. And then my special guest, Virginia Willis, is going to be with us next week. Be sure to tune in. She's the author of Bon Appetit, y'all. So keep cooking over the holidays. Go to the website at NBC26.tv for these recipes. But remember, no matter what you do, do it in good taste, and Santa's watching. So tune in with us again next week for the VeryVera Show.